Good evening, everybody. So in my last video, I was talking about the connection to the Tower of Babel story, that we find similarities all over the world with the megalithic buildings, right? So I think it would be cool if we, dive into some of these megalithic structures and show just how they are similar and also how advanced they actually are, from their precision to their megalithic size. This is something that I cannot help but get giddy about. I've spent hours just finding different pictures of megalithic structures and then saving them to my phone. Like that's how I spend my free time, honestly. But so the site that we're going to be looking at today is Ollantaytambo, which is the site 45 miles northwest of Cusco in Peru. Now, the first image, what we have here is just a huge megalithic wall. I think this is part of the Temple of the Sun. And if you look really close, you can see there are notches on this structure. And one of the really interesting features about this are these thin, I would call them megalithic, slivers of rock that they put in between these bigger rocks. Now, could that have been for earthquake protection so that it has some room to slide against each other? We don't know. But what we do see as well are these nubs protruding out of the wall. I find it really interesting that this culture and all the other cultures had the ability to cut stone completely flat, and yet they choose to have this organic, not necessarily puffy look, but like almost a molding of it. I really find this site really, really intriguing. So to put into perspective just how heavy and logistically speaking difficult moving one of these rocks would be, some of the heaviest rocks in South America and in Egypt are 500 tons, but there are stuff that's 1,000 tons, which is over 2 million pounds. Okay, let's just, for the sake of being here in South America, let's say we have a 500 ton rock, right? 500 tons is about 1 million pounds. Let's say you have a strong person that's able to pull 200 pounds, and remember, these things are 50 miles away, going up and down steep terrain. It's unbelievable. And so then you gotta imagine the trail that they're traversing to even bring this to the site. So you would need about 1,000 people to pull this object and maneuver. If everybody can manipulate 200 pounds with ease, you would need 1,000 people to pull a 500 ton object, right? Imagine 1,000 people taking over 100 of these blocks up and down the mountain, having to cut it, and it doesn't make any sense. And you see these kinds of things in places like Egypt as well, where the quarry is 500 miles away, with a statue, the Ozymandias statue, that is 1,000 tons. Okay, and yeah, you would need 5,000 people just to pull that thing. It doesn't make any sense that the conventional orthodox assumption of these things is that they pulled them on sleds with rope and wood. So let's dive into that a little bit. So that, let's say they have wood. Where are they going to get the wood from? Well, there's no wood in Egypt, correct? So you'd have to go to Syria or Lebanon, which are 500 miles away the opposite direction. So you'd have to travel from Aswan, which is the quarry, to Lebanon or Syria, 500 miles, then travel back with the wood. Okay, that's 1,000-mile trip. And then we got to get into the material strength aspect of this, right? So you've got 500 tons. How much wood do you think it's going to take to be able to even support that? A lot, right? And then how long is that wood going to be able to last underneath that kind of weight? Not that long. I'll do another video in the future about some of the most powerful cranes that we have. Alright, so let's go to the next object we have here. Oh, same object. So I want you to look at this relief carving that's on the object, like some sort of staircase or something like that, right? Very fascinating. Why is it there? And why isn't it embedded into the rock? So to get a relief carving, you have to carve the rock that's around the shape that you're making, which is so much work. And it's unbelievable that we see this feature. We see these features on tons of different artifacts. So this object, or this shape right here, looks very similar to this roof right here, right? Now this is in Saudi Arabia, and it seems like we may have a connection there. Maybe not with this, but we do have a connection somewhere, and I'll bring that up at the end of this presentation. You'll see. And it has something to do with Enlil right here. This is from the Kef Kalese, which is a new site that has been found. Very, very interesting and intriguing. I'm still learning about it, but there is megalithic structuring there with blocks made out of andesite, which is one of the hardest stones to manipulate. So next, we got a video. Let's watch this video. Okay, I want to interject here. Sorry, Ben, but look at the patina growing on these rocks. It's pretty remarkable. Patina has a very slow growth rate. And another interesting facet about this is that you only see the patina on the megalithic structuring, not on the Inca constructioning, which are the smaller bricks and stacked with mortar. Like it adds to the age of these megalithic blocks. And now look at this wall. Like, this is a wall for a door, right? Like, you literally have a ledge, pretty much. Unbelievable. And look at how tight these joins are. It's like, you can't even fit a piece of paper in between those. And then if we look all the way in the back, we see this just stone, a megalithic stone, precisely cut out of granite, stuck in the ground. Like something blew up. That's what we see at all of these sites, is like something blew up or something hit it, a great flood hit it, and just threw all of these megalithic blocks all over the place. No, they do not make sense, Ben. So where it's paused right here, we can see a really, really good comparison. So we see on the side, Inca construction, right? Stacked blocks, not even reaching a ton. And we can see inside of the joinings of these. They're not precise, they're not perfect. And then if we look at the megalithic, we see perfect, polygonal stacking with angles that don't even make sense. Like, why would you even cut a block like that? Why not get perfectly fitting blocks? This method of building would be orders of magnitude harder than your standard stacking of blocks. And like Ben was saying earlier, the megalithic stuff is attributed to the oldest builders, right? All of the newer stuff that is not megalithic are the newer people, and so that aspect alone should have you questioning, because sophistication and technology move in a linear trajectory up. It's not like we started with an iPhone and then all of a sudden we're back to a pager, That's analogous of what we're seeing right here. It's very similar. We start with the most technological advanced, and then as we move forward in time, we are getting less advanced. Severely less advanced, I might add. Here's another picture where we can really see the nubs, just like look at them protruding out. And what's really crazy is that these nubs are found at all of the sacred sites. All of the megalithic sites have these nubs. And I often wonder why, what are they for, So if I were to, just take a wild guess, I would say that maybe they are, from the method that they were able to gather the stone from the quarry. Like, if we were to look at these nubs as a connection point for something technological onto the rock, maybe you hit the rock with something and then it vibrates or it does something on a molecular level, and then you're able to extract the shape or a shape the rock that you need. it's fascinating because, again, we see this everywhere at every single site. And if we were to take the orthodox assumption that therefore maneuvering these blocks, that makes no sense at all, because there are nubs on very, very small blocks and then no nubs on gigantic blocks. So it's definitely not for maneuvering at all. And I think that the fact that we see these on all the megalithic sites just shows that this had something to do with the technology that they're using to extract and mold these blocks. Let's go to the next one. Another video. So in this clip, what we're going to see is the joining of these rocks. So let's say if we have a block and then we have another block, we stack them onto each other. What they do is on the top of the block, they like cut it out into a very interesting way to where it's almost like a Lego, but a Lego piece that just has different connector points for each block, because these aren't the same on every one. But if you see on this top part, this would have had a block with the same feature but protruding, resting on top of it to kind of lock it into place. Very interesting. And again, this is all done in granite and basalt, which is like the hardest of stones that we can work with. We have a problem working with that kind of stuff today. And to think that ancient man was able to manipulate these stones with their attributed tools, copper drag saws, and dorite pounding stones that they find in the river just doesn't make any sense. And I mean, I'm just looking at it logically, like it doesn't make any sense at all. So yeah, I mean, just absolutely incredible. And then we have another feature of the wall. And then so right there, right in the middle of these megalithic blocks, we see Inca building. Clearly a different builder. It's literally like if you were to have, a painter who could paint realistic drawings with a pencil, and then you allow your kid to come and then draw some hair and color it in, right? It would look something similar to this. You would have one person who was very skilled craftsman, and then you'd have another person that wasn't as skilled but gave an attempt. And that's what we're seeing here, is we're seeing attempts. Now, don't get me wrong, the Inca were able to build walls and structures, but these structures are nowhere near the megalithic sites that we see, the megalithic buildings that we see in South America and in Egypt, Easter Island, maybe even Göbekli Tepe. Well, yes, of course, Turkey because of Kefkalese, and other sites all around the world. Different builders who apparently were the most advanced at the beginning of their emerging from hunter-gatherer. We see the nubs all over here, and just it's literally like a puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle, Unreal. And then here we can see how just tightly crafted these connections are. And remember, they're set on top of each other like a puzzle, they're literally like sinking into each other. Just incredible craftsmanship. And I feel it's a huge disservice to try and chalk this up to, copper tools and pounding stones, the ancients, when clearly there was something far more sophisticated and advanced going on. But, the history is told by the victors, and we ignore the King's List that goes back like 24,000 years. We ignore the Incas' traditions, who say that this was a site of the gods and people who had came before. We say, nope, you guys didn't do this. You guys did this with copper tools and pounding stones, and that's exactly how it was done. Case closed. Anybody who even tries to bring up the idea that maybe there was an advanced civilization that existed before us is shunned and kicked out. Similar to when the Clovis I doctrine was heavily pushed And archaeologists started to question, but they were told not to dig any deeper, and one did. And what did he find? He found human remains in America that were, 15 some thousand years old. Boom. People were in America before the Indians who supposedly crossed the land bridge. But he was shunned, he was kicked out of the archaeological field, and years later that truth came to light, and now it's widely accepted. It's horrible, and I feel that what happened in that situation is going to happen here with people who are pushing this narrative that ancient man was far more advanced than we give them credit for, and far older than what we assert. That it's going to take some time, because the paradigm that we have right now is all based on the 6,000 year period of humans, right? We were hunter-gatherers, and then 6,000 years ago we developed civilization, and that's how it is, and that's how it will be, because I feel this follows into the doctrine of the religious oligarchy that rules the world, basically, or conquered the world. Thanks, Constantine, killing off all the old religions, Hermeticism, pagans, and then taking all of those doctrines and putting them into one little nice box, right? It's so ridiculous. I don't know how people can be so oblivious to this truth, honestly. Here's some more. We see some huge blocks, just massive. Let's see what this is. Yeah, I mean, gigantic stones. Those things probably weigh about 300 tons, easy. And so that mountain in the back right there is where they quarried it from. So they had to climb up and down this steep ass mountain with blocks that were about 500 tons. Granite that they had to cut out and then bring down. Now, that doesn't make any sense. It's impossible, actually, to have upwards of 2,000 people pulling one single stone on that. You'd have to carve out an entire trail, and there's no evidence for huge main trails leading up and down that can support more than 100 people, But yeah, that's just far away. It's just super far away. And then how I love how it molds into the ground. It's like organic. It's like it's made from the earth. This is really interesting. This sign right here, these tool marks, this is a smoking gun to me. It's literally a power tool mark we're looking at right now. We're looking at something that cut into the rock and just stopped. And you can see on the rock how flat it is. Like, this is a literal circular saw mark into the rock. And what's crazy about this is that, mainstream Orthodox will tell you, oh, this was from a 360 pound copper swing blade that swung on a pendulum, right? And what's even crazier is that the rate of cutting that they attribute them to is like 50 times better than our best machinery. It's laughable, honestly. But yeah, in this cut, you can't even fit like a quarter in there, or a piece of paper or a credit card. It is so thin but flat at the same time. Literally perfect. Like, look at this wall, just sheared off. Like, it somehow or another they were just able to eat away at the rock at such an incredible rate and make these perfect, precise, cuts that are indicative of a power tool, machinery. And what's even wilder is that this isn't even the only site with those marks on it. We have these marks all over the world where megalithic structures are found. We have signs of circular saw striations. We have signs of overcuts. It's painfully obvious, and this is another reason why I'm doing this, is because people need to know. And I feel the reason why this paradigm isn't so accepted is because people go through their whole lives just accepting what they're fed, not even looking at the evidence. And the evidence of us being, our ancestors being a highly advanced civilization that was wiped out I think is so empowering. It for me, and I'm sure for many others, it fills you with such wonder and joy. Let's see some more of these cuts. Yeah, just unreal. These these power tool marks to me is literally like the closest thing to seeing a UFO, like a UFO photo. This gives me the same excitement as that. Like, truly an enigma and unexplainable right in front of your face. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant! Unbelievable. Yeah, and then so we're gonna go around the world to Egypt. Look at these, clear striations in the rock. This is a circular saw mark. We can even see a groove that has an arc to it right in front of where his finger is pointing. And if we look all the way at where the flatness stops, you can see underneath the rock, like where the blade was taken out. So amazing. It blows my mind, honestly. and it's not even just this. It's like the precision that we observe at some of these sites are orders of magnitude what can honestly be created by hand. Like, we're talking about precision within the micron. On top of that, we have mathematical extractions like pi and phi, the Fibonacci. We have the sacred geometry on these things that are perfect, like in the vases that Ben is scanning with a light structured machine, which basically gives you points of references in the billions. So you can reference this point to this point like that all over the object within the billions. So you can track the flatness from one point to the other on the radius or the whatever you want. And you can see just how perfect these are. And the perfection observed on some of these objects, on some of the bases, or actually most of the bases, are within the micron, smaller than a human hair. So the rate of flatness, the tolerance of perfection, precision on these objects are that less than a human hair of smoothness. Absolutely incredible. Here's some more striation marks, clear, and then we can see where it stops on the rock. Like they took it out and they just snapped that rock off. Like, look at that. Clearly you see the striations in the rock, and mainstream will tell you that this was done with a copper blade. Not at all. Not at all. We got a video. And this is basalt. This is at the Giza Plateau. A lot of people don't know this, but the Giza Plateau flooring outside of the pyramid is made out of basalt, which is one of the hardest stones in the world. And so in this first stone, we can see a lip right after where it was cut, it seems like. And that is a thin lip that is completely straight, leading all the way through the rock. Incredible. It looks like Wolverine just hit this rock with its blades. It's like, whatcha! Like, this is unreal. Unreal. So let's say if we're going to take the orthodox of using a copper saw that was on a pendulum, that was 300 and some pounds, why would you make 3 consecutive cuts side by side like this? Like, the amount of time it would take to just achieve one is unreal, but they've done 3? No, I don't think so. I think these were done very fast with something very powerful. Unreal. Look at this. Completely flat. Deep. Some of these cuts wouldn't even been shown to the public. wouldn't even have been shown on the outside. It would have been connected and in the joints of the actual basalt floor. Unreal. Now let's go back to the Ollantaytambo. And here, I just like this photo because if we see the doorway of the Temple of the Sun, I don't know. I gotta learn my megalithic structures. I know they exist, so that's like the start, but I just gotta start learning like what their names are, what their stories around, you know, the lore behind these ancient megalithic sites. But yeah, so this rock that she's standing next to, it looks like somebody just took a sandblaster and just blasted it, flattened it all out. Like, it really looks cool, and it makes me wonder, like, is this what it looked like in the beginning when they were freshly made? And then also, like, why would they do that, you know? And you can tell that it's not Photoshopped because you can see the patina on the side right next to this protruding nub. Like, it's pretty impressive, honestly. It looks cool, I think. But yeah, let's go to the next one. Here's another good picture of it. And so this one I find very interesting because we clearly have the door, and then up the hill, I mean, maybe a good, 100 feet, 200 feet up the hill, very steeply elevated, we see this like perfect block with this ledge on it. And, you know, was this connected to something? Was this just like a ledge that was on the block? Or, you know, like, I really want to know, like, get into the mind of the ancient builders, because I'm so curious about why they did some of the things they did. But again, this obviously looks like something explosive or powerful happened. It came through here and just messed everything up, right? Man didn't mess this up. And especially Incas didn't, or the conquistadors. That's not even in the doctrine. This was destroyed by something, and we don't know what it is. And so what I find interesting about this is that in this area, they have a deity named Viracocha, who basically flooded the people around Lake Titicaca because of the moral failings and plight of the creations he had created. So he flooded the people around Lake Titicaca, saving two to bring civilization to the rest of the world. And yeah, he walked across the Pacific Ocean disguised as a beggar, and that's the story of Viracocha. And that sounds exactly like Jesus and the Noah story, or the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the original version of the story of Noah in the cuneiform tablets, if you didn't know. But yeah, what's really interesting is that all of these megalithic sites, we see some sort of huge cataclysm that happened. Like it just ran through and destroyed everything. I find it very, very interesting. Very interesting. And I'll do some more videos on it, because there's a lot of stuff surrounding that will make you question, like, wow, you know? Like, Lake Titicaca is 2,000 feet above the sea, right? How the hell did that thing get flooded? You know, I don't know. Makes you question. And, you know, if we want to go with the Younger Dryas impact theory, the seas rose by 400 feet, you know, after a great cataclysm or a great asteroid hit the Laurentide ice sheet that was basically all over America, that was 2 miles high. So just like kind of put this into your head. So you got a 2-mile high glacier covering most of America and Canada, and just the northern part of the earth. It was hit with a comet, and it probably goes all the way down or very deep. It's very hot, kicks up a bunch of stuff in the air, melts the ice sheet, and then the dam breaks and the water just floods. You've got flood waters that are like a mile high, just cruising thousands of miles across the land till it hits the sea. And then once it hits the sea, the sea's raised by 400 feet. And then that water goes even over more land. Like, the story, it sounds almost like divine intervention, but we see the evidence. We see the scarring on the land. We see the rolling hills of the water receding. We see barrels or like I don't know what they're called. I don't know the technical name, but it's what happens when you have a funnel in running water. And these funnels were so powerful, they are literally drilling into the rock, and just boring out these huge holes. Kind of like if you walk on a river and then you start seeing rocks with these giant holes in them, right? That's what was happening, but in the bedrock. Like, what? It's amazing. All right, so we're going to go to the next one. And so this right here is just so crazy to me. I actually found this out a little while ago, actually last night while I was making this video. So I wanted to show the similarities of the nub phenomena and the stacking of the stone. They're exactly the same. Almost a mirror image. And one is in South America and one is in Egypt. And these were built at a time when there was supposedly no connection between these two civilizations. Early man could not traverse the roaring sea that is the Atlantic. But not only do we see these similar building methods, but we see the same deity. Okay? So this is Viracocha right here on the left. And then we have the deity of Egypt, which I think is Enlil or somebody. I'm not sure. Like I said before, I'm sorry guys. I really need to learn my ancient civilizations, deity, and megalithic site lore. I'm coming into this from the perspective of just looking at the megalithic blocks and the destruction. That's what interests me. But I'm sure going down this journey, down this path, I'll start to pick up on some more of the terminology and whatnot. But yeah, so these two deities look exactly the same, right? Same position, holding the same thing, and I'm sure they have a similar story of destroying the world with a great flood. Actually, I know they do. And then, so if we look at Viracocha, look at what's sitting next to him. These four beings or whatever, winged beings, right? This is the exact same depiction of Enlil. And then this deity from the Kefkalese site, or from Ionis, which is a newly found megalithic site that I was talking about earlier. It's the exact same being, a winged deity kneeling on one leg. It really makes you wonder, right? And I'm pretty excited to start looking more into this because I'm sure I'm going to find some more parallels just like this. But from my own knowledge right now, I thought that this would be enough to share of what I've just found. And I'm sure other people have found it too, and they know it as well. But this is just me. Like, this kind of solidifies the idea of a global civilization existing that was connected all over the world. But yeah, pretty crazy, right? So yeah, that was the end of the this kind of presentation. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, I came into this subject through looking at megalithic sites, just being captured by their majesty and precision. And I don't know when it started. I've always known about them, but I never fully dove into it. I've never allowed it to make that kind of pivotal change in my life. And I think I finally have gotten to that where I'm captivated now. I can't look away from megalithic structures or ancient precision. It's amazing, and I hope you guys feel the same way, or I've sparked some interest of this to you, because I feel that it's very important that we as a whole start learning about our true history and stop accepting this, cookie cutter dogma that's been spoon-fed to us since we were children, right? Like the pyramids were supposedly pyramids, and the builders, they sealed themselves in there so that grave robbers couldn't come in Like, and there's been no bodies found in the pyramids of Giza and the other two. What's interesting is that like the pyramids of Giza and sites like the Osirion and some other sites, they don't have, you know, hieroglyphics or writing on them. They're bare. And it makes you feel like it was a lot of these sites, and even in Saqqara, like the etching on the boxes in Saqqara are literally like etch and sketch. You can see the chisel marks. It's not straight compared to the 100-ton perfect black granite boxes that have been polished. And I'm going to do a video on some of this evidence that we see at those sites because it's crazy. Apparently the polish goes down like a centimeter. It's not just the top layer of the rock, it actually is in the rock, and there's evidence of it like beating on the bottom of the box, like they use some sort of liquid. Absolutely incredible. But yes, so the next site that we'll be discussing will be Sacsayhuaman, which I do enjoy looking at. These blocks are very beautiful and very organic. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will end it with this video. This is From Thought. Much love. Peace out.